on this video, you are probably wondering what the heck is the weather like in Rome and what am I supposed to pack for my trip? Don't worry, I have you covered and we're gonna break it down in this video. Hello everybody, I'm Sammy and I've been living here in Rome for the past 8 years and I share Italy tips that do not suck here on my YouTube as well as my Instagram and my TikTok and my website. So if you're looking for more tips for your trip to Rome or anywhere else in the rest of Italy, hit that subscribe button below because it really helps support my channel. I have prepared a copious amount of notes for this video because I'm going to get into all of the nitty-gritty detail that you want to know for your time when you are going to be visiting Rome. First things first, what is the best app to check the weather for your trip to Rome? I personally think that AccuWeather has some of the most accurate forecasting, and you can also break it down by hour. And then on their website, I love that they have a full, I think it's 30 and 45 day forecast that you can see completely for free. Now, granted, you have to take it with a grain of salt because I don't think any 45-day forecast is going to be 100% accurate. No forecast ever really is, but it does kind of allow you to have an idea of what they think the weather will be like within a certain range. Now, one thing that I always suggest bringing with you, regardless of the time of year, is a refillable packable water bottle. This is because Rome has free, fresh, delicious water fountains throughout the entire city, and you are always going to want to have water on you because you are going to be taking a lot of steps a day. I can guarantee it. Everything that I mentioned in this video, by the way, will be linked in the description below, either in my Amazon storefront or my LTK. So if you're interested in anything I talk about this video that you want to purchase for your trip yourself, head to my description and all of the links will be there for you. One thing I want to point out about Rome's weather is that it is an incredibly humid city, which means that it can actually feel hotter or colder than what the temperature says on any particular weather app due to humidity. Additionally, for any months that are not summer months, and to avoid me having to repeat it in every single month, if you're not coming in June, July, or August, pack a portable travel umbrella. I have a couple linked in my Amazon storefront that I really like. You can of course buy them here from the guys that are selling them on the street if you get caught in the rain, but I guarantee you that it won't last more than a day. They're basically like single use, the worst quality umbrella you've ever purchased in your life, and with one gust of wind, they're cooked. All right, so let's get into the weather month by month, starting in January. I'm actually going to combine January and February because I find that the weather is so similar. Rome has incredibly mild weather, so even in January and February, which are the peak of winter here, the temperature during the day is usually going to be between about 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is somewhere in the ballpark of about 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. In the early mornings and evenings, it does tend to cool off a bit. It's usually in the 40s Fahrenheit, which is between like 4 and 10 degrees Celsius. As far as what to pack, I personally am a huge fan of the Uniqlo base layers. I'm actually wearing them right now under this other Uniqlo sweater that I have. The reason that I like packing base layers is because if you are gonna pack sweaters, when you pack base layers, you can basically ensure that you're not getting your sweater dirty, so you can just swap out the base layers and wear your sweater more than one time on your trip, especially if you're only packing with a carry-on. I know that space is super limited and packing in winter can be a little bit of a puzzle that you need to solve. So you can plan on wearing your sweaters more than once if you just pack a couple extra base layers so that your sweater doesn't get dirty. As far as coats, I suggest bringing something that you're okay with getting wet. So maybe something waterproof, like a little bit of a thicker trench coat that's waterproof, a lighter wool coat, because again, I don't really think it requires a super heavy coat. Romans do wear puffer jackets. Probably one because they are water resistant, but I personally don't really wear one. I also think that you can bring a leather coat and then just bulk up heavier sweaters and a scarf over the top, and that works really well too. Other things to pack: jeans, slacks, long sleeve t-shirts, skirts with tights, dresses with tights. Definitely bring a pair of cute, comfortable sneakers. Bonus points if you're okay with them getting wet, so probably nothing suede. And then a pair of boots are great, especially ones that you're okay, again, with getting wet. I definitely suggest bringing a scarf. Not only is it an essential to keep your neck warm, but Italians love a scarf and they have the fear of air getting them sick, so you gotta have your neck covered. This is an essential Italian item. You could also bring a hat if you want. I personally never wear one. I don't think it's cold enough for it, but I do wear gloves because I ride a scooter and so my hands get cold. Moving on to March and April, we are heading into the spring months, which, yes, can still have rain, but the temperatures do start getting warmer, which we love. So the temperature is typically between like 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and about 15 to 21 degrees Celsius. Evenings it will get like a little bit cooler, but not too bad. It shouldn't really dip much further than the low 60s, high 50s. I definitely think that by March and April, you you can leave your heavy wool coat at home. But that's again going to be a personal preference. I typically wear like a trench coat or a leather coat during these months. And then the rest of what I'm packing would be pretty similar to what you would pack in January and February, but maybe just with some more t-shirts and tank tops and layerable items. So a great outfit that I always go to is kind of like a t-shirt with a button up open over it, and then maybe a light trench coat on top of that. Longer skirts, transitional kind of spring things. You definitely won't see Italians wearing sandals during these months, but if you have a pair of comfortable sandals that you want to wear, go for it. It is your vacation. I personally also won't be wearing sandals, but you do you. May. So the lovely month of May can be a bit of a wild card here in Rome. It can either be very similar to April, or it can be basically a second version of June, meaning it's much, much hotter. So I definitely suggest looking at the weather in advance if you're coming in May to get a gauge of what the weather is going to be like. So during the day, it can be anywhere from like 60 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to the 80s, which is about 15 to 26 degrees Celsius. So it's a really broad range. And in the evenings, of course, it still is going to start cooling off a little bit, 50s to 60s degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Obviously, it's getting warmer as we get closer to June. So what I would pack for May is going to be similar to April, and that's going to be t-shirts, tank tops, layerable items, lighter pants, maybe a pair of jeans for the evening if it is a little bit cooler. As far as like jackets during the day, something light like a blazer or a light trench coat or even a light sweater, a light long sleeve shirt, and then a leather jacket at night if it is going to be in the 50s, I think is perfect. Comfy sneakers, always a must. If you're coming towards the end of May, that is when I would start pulling out those sandals. Now we're entering the glorious and hot summer months in Rome. First up is June, which is probably one of my favorite months here in Rome. At the beginning of the month, temperatures are going to start slowly creeping up. So we're going to be looking at during the day like the 70s into the low 80s degrees Fahrenheit, which is basically like 21 to 26 degrees Celsius. But as we creep closer to July, you are going to be looking at temperatures during the day that are in the 80s all the way up to the 90s. Then in the evenings, maybe at the beginning of the month, it will get into the 60s still, but as the month goes on, it's pretty much not going to dip below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like, you know, between 18 and 21 degrees Celsius, more or less. By June, this is typically when I would say it's a pretty safe cutoff to stop packing a travel umbrella with you. Maybe if you're coming for the first week, I would still suggest it, but the summer has such minimal rain that I think you could probably get away with not packing it. By June, I have retired my jeans for the season. Here in Italy, we have to do something called a cambio di stagione, which is basically a changing of the season because we don't have huge closet spaces in our apartments. So I basically have to swap out my winter wardrobe for my summer wardrobe, and my jeans are being put to rest for several months by June. But the rest of the things that you're gonna pack are gonna be really similar to May. Flowy pants, skirts, dresses, tank tops, t-shirts, maybe like one or two kind of long sleeve shirts to wear at night in churches, maybe a light sweater if it gets a little bit cooler in the evening or if you need something on the plane. Cute sneakers and then cute and comfortable sandals are the two shoes I definitely suggest packing. And of course, if you are coming in summer months, you are gonna wanna pack that beachwear. So we're gonna need swimsuit, we're gonna need sandals, and we're gonna need a hat to protect your poor face from the sun. You can pack sunscreen, but Italian pharmacies have incredible sunscreen products that you can get here, both from Italian and French brands. So if you don't have space in your suitcase or you're bringing a carry-on so you're not gonna be able to bring a big bottle of sunscreen, don't worry, you can buy it when you get here. Heading into July, which is my birthday month, and August. My notes on my screen, quite literally I wrote, hot as hell. And that is a pretty accurate description of the weather in July and August in Rome. The weather in the day is going to be pretty much no lower than 85 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way up to 95 plus degrees, which means you're looking at about 29 to 35 plus degrees Celsius during the day. And it doesn't get that much cooler at night. It maybe gets into the mid 80s, but it's really not gonna dip anything below 80 unless you're out at like 4 a.m. It's super important to remember that in Italy, while you will have air conditioning in your accommodation, make sure you check because it's not a guarantee. Most public places, so restaurants, museums, for example, are going to either have no air conditioning at all, or they will have air conditioning, but it's gonna be like this. So pack light. Cotton and linen are your best friends. You need fabric that can breathe in this hot weather. I genuinely do not think, unless you are going to a mountain town after you come to Rome, that you need a sweater or a jacket of any kind. Maybe like a long sleeve linen shirt to pop over to go into churches and St. Peter's Basilica, the Vatican museums, etc. A couple of essential items for the summer months, all the way through September, I would say, are going to be a portable handheld fan. I have my favorite one linked in my Amazon storefront. And you are going to need to bring clothing that covers your knees and your shoulders if you are going into religious sites, such as St. Peter's Basilica and the Vatican museums. Yes, this goes for both men and women. Moving on to September, while we are technically getting into the fall, it is very much still a summer month in my mind, because it is still very, very warm. The weather during the day is usually about 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is in the high 20s, low 30s Celsius. It can get cooler in the evening, but more towards the back half of the month, where it can get into the 60s Fahrenheit in the evening, which is like 18-ish degrees Celsius. I would suggest very similar clothing that you would pack in July and August. I am still boycotting jeans in the month of September. That's my personal preference. If you want to bring a pair of jeans with you to wear maybe in the evenings in the later half of the month, that's a you choice. I think also a light sweater or a light denim jacket for those early mornings when you're getting out there before 9 a.m. or in the late evenings when it is cooling off a little bit is totally fine. Now, October is what I would consider to be Rome's second wildcard month of the year. It can still be super warm at the first half of the month, similar to that September weather that I was just talking about. That's mid to high 80s Fahrenheit, which is like mid to high 20s Celsius. But then getting into the second half of the month, things are gonna slowly start getting cooler. So the weather's gonna be in about the 70s Fahrenheit, which is like low to mid 20s Celsius. In the mornings and in the evenings, it will start cooling off. So weather will typically be in the 60s, even the high 50s at times, which is like 10 to 18 degrees Celsius. The thing about October is you can have intermittent rain. So this is gonna be a month where I suggest packing that travel umbrella again. I actually would also suggest it for September because September can have a little bit of rain. Tank tops, t-shirts, jeans can come back into play in October, slacks, skirts, dresses, light sweaters towards the second half of the month. As far as a jacket, I would say a blazer, a light leather coat, or a light trench at night is going to be perfect. Cute sneakers as always, maybe some sandals at the beginning of the month and swapping those out for some lightweight boots towards the end of the month. Our final 2 months of the year, which are November and December, I am combining into one because the weather is incredibly similar. November is when we start heading into the rainier months and the weather is pretty mild, I will say, temperature-wise. Rome doesn't get particularly cold if it's not the early morning or the late evening. So during the day, you're looking at weather that's in the low 60s, high 50s Fahrenheit, which is like the low 20s, high teens Celsius. So like I said, super mild. And in the early morning, late evenings, it can dip down into the 40s, high 30s, sometimes in Fahrenheit, is the low teens, even getting down into some single digits in Celsius. It very, very, very rarely gets to freezing here in Rome. Again, I highly suggest bringing layers like my Uniqlo base layer, some lighter sweaters like this. This is not super, super thick, but it's wool, so it's a nice, warm, natural fiber. Waterproof, heavier trench, I think is a perfect jacket for November and December in Rome. Otherwise, a more lightweight wool coat is also a great choice. Comfortable waterproof sneakers are a must, and then I personally always go with just leather boots as my kind of rain boots. I know I could probably get some boots that are made for rain, but my leather boots work perfectly fine. A scarf is also super awesome to bring with you because it adds like a little bit of fun to your outfit and keeps your neck warm in those little bit of cooler moments. And I always have some gloves with me because my hands do tend to get cold. Whew, that was a lot of information in one video. I hope that this helped you. If it did, please give this video a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below. If you're looking for real-time updates before your trip, I highly suggest giving me a follow on Instagram and TikTok, where I post daily from here in Rome on the ground so you can get a feel for what I'm wearing and what the weather is like leading up to the days before your trip dates. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao!